Hola, buenos días. Es Nico.
I have a question, and don't fight me because I know how you girls like to tussle.
So today we're here to talk about something very interesting. I saw a tweet that actually piqued my interest because someone essentially said, before we get started, if you like this kind of content, make sure to follow me at patreon.com/Nicosaesthetics so that you can help support the channel because I have bills to pay. Back to the topic. Essentially, somebody said, I know you're not calling 18-year-olds who say they do not want to have sex with someone who is 40 and or around that range ageist. And I thought that was interesting. Because in our community, I've heard countless stories about younger gay men having their first gay experience with a man that is far older than them, usually around the age of their father. And it's visible that these young gay men are still teenagers and or kids because apparently people are getting started as early as like 11 or 12. I know this is an uncomfortable conversation, but I've heard these stories far too many times for me to not address it because I myself was not sexually active until I was 19, just because that's when I moved out and my mom was very watchful over me, and I appreciate her for that because it saved me a lot of trauma. But you know, in your teenagers, you're like, I want freedom, I want to do this, I want to do that. Bitch, you ain't grown. That's the thing I learned that immediately as soon as I moved out. Bitch, you're not grown as a teenager. But I find it interesting because people are trying to say you're ageist if you have an age limit. And I just want to know, what do you personally find attractive about someone who is 18? And you know, this isn't going to be like a shaming video for older people that find like 18-year-olds attractive. I genuinely want to know because they still look like children. And you know what? That's coming from somebody who is 25. You know, at 23, I tried dating a 20-year-old and I just felt like, I mean, obviously he was grown because he was 20, he had his own place, he had his own job, but his mentality was that of a child. And I'm like, I can't imagine seriously chasing after like an 18-year-old at like 23 or 25 just because if a 20-year-old has the mentality of a child, what is an 18-year-old gonna actually bring me? And I don't see an issue with people having a hard cutoff for ages because I honestly believe everyone should, older and younger, as in if you're 40, you should not be chasing an 18-year-old. You shouldn't, because at that point it's like a predatory range of age gap. You're old enough to be their father. But if you're like 18, you should not be chasing a grown ass man. And you know what? I understand that that's like controversial, especially in our community, since a lot of people had their first experiences with somebody that was in their late 20s to 30s. But at 18, they have nothing to offer you that's going to be beneficial to your life. And if they do, it's usually not going to be a healthy dynamic once it actually gets to a serious point, just because you are still a child, you know? 18 to 22 to 22, you go to 22 to 22, bitch, I'm 25. I've obviously lived through this age gap, so I could tell you, you're not gonna be old enough mentally to truly tackle what dating somebody that old is going to entail, especially because if they are not dating someone that's even near their age range, that proves that they're not a proper candidate for a serious relationship. So I don't believe that it's ageist to say that at a certain age there should be a hard cutoff. Just because at that point, I mean, unless you have like a daddy fetish, indulge once you're 18, I guess, but that needs to be a you decision. You do not need to let someone far older influence you and or pressure you into having sexual encounters if you are uncomfortable. So I don't believe it's ageist to say that at 18 to early 20s, I don't want to have sex with somebody that's in their 40s or 50s. If you're in your 20s and you want to have sex with somebody in their 40s and 50s, that's up to you, because at that point, you've aged properly, you know what you're getting into, you know it's just sex, you know you have a better grasp. But at 18, do not feel pressured to have sex with somebody in their 40s to 50s, in their 40s to 50s, because it's not ageist. Like, I don't see it as ageist to say, I don't want to have sex with somebody that's old enough to be my father and or grandfather. Like, it's not ageist to me. Maybe because I haven't reached that age, but you know, at that point, I'm just wondering, what would you find attractive about somebody that's old enough to be your child? You know, like, it is not a steady dynamic for me. Or why don't you find people that are your own age attractive? Because, you know, I usually see people coupling up around the same age range. So I don't understand why 40 to late 30s are targeting like 18-year-olds and saying, if you don't have sex with me, it's ageist. Personally. But you know, it's usually, especially on that app like Twitter, it's usually the minority voice that's blown up the most, so it's not like a majority problem, but it's still an interesting dialogue. Do you think that it's ageist for an 18-year-old to say, I do not want to have sex with somebody that's in their 40s to 50s? Do you think that it's normal for someone in their late 30s to 40s to find people that are 18 to very early 20s attractive? Because personally, at 25, they all look like children to me. And you know, that's me at 25, and I still have a close proximity to them age range. They still just look like children. But yeah, definitely drop your opinions down below, because this is a prevalent conversation within the community, since so many people always say that my first sexual encounter was with somebody nearly 3 times my age. So definitely drop your opinions down below. Boop. And once again, a quick thank you to all my patrons on Patreon, and a quick shout out to my third eye tier patrons. Your support means everything to me and helps me do this a lot more smoothly. I will also be listing this week's live stream topic in case anybody wants to join in on the fun. I will see you guys there.